I'm going to call the school committee meeting of May 5th, 2026 to order. You can join me with pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We changed around the agenda a little bit tonight. If you didn't notice, the minutes are not going to be under the consent agenda. So if you have any changes to the minutes, pull it out of the consent agenda. Otherwise, we'll just vote on it in the consent agenda.
Typically too long to find those minutes. Yeah, same.
Next on the agenda, we have public participation, and we do have someone here for public participation. So if you want to come up and speak to the group, just identify yourself.
Hello.
If you want to turn that microphone on, you can just click it on and turn green.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Evening. I was a little scared that I didn't remember, but I did. Thank goodness. 12 years of public school. My name is Megan Tenhoff. I have two children in the Hudson schools. I have an 8th grader and a 6th grader, and we moved here in August. So we're really enjoying the town, and thank you for
Welcome
the
to
opportunity. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. So good evening, members of the school committee. Here's something I think many of us would recognize. A middle school student sits down to do homework on a school-issued laptop at home. The assignment tab is open. In another tab, there's something else. YouTube, Instagram, game. A quick check turns into scrolling. 20 minutes later, the assignment is still open but untouched. And nothing about that is unusual, and that's the problem. I think most of us have that exact moment many times in our lives. Open a screen for one thing and end up somewhere else. And that's the real issue. Students aren't just managing schoolwork on these devices. They're navigating an entire online environment designed to hold their attention often as long as possible. We've already made a clear decision as a district. When students enter the classroom, phones go away. We've done that because we know the attention matters. But when we hand students a school-issued laptop with access to the same distractions, we've created a system that removes the distraction from one form and hands it back in another. And this isn't just a local concern anymore. More than 40 states, including Massachusetts, have filed lawsuits against meta platforms, alleging that platforms like Instagram were deliberately designed with features such as infinite scroll and algorithmic feeds to maximize time and foster compulsive use amongst young people. At the same time, states have brought legal action against Google LLC related to YouTube, citing design features that promote excessive engagement among children. And the American Academy of Pediatrics has warned both excessive screen time and social media use, linking them to sleep disruption, attention challenges, and impacts on youth mental health. So the question isn't whether it's affecting students, it's whether we're going to respond in a way that's within our control. School-issued devices should support learning. They should not double as social platforms. And this is not about blaming students, and it's not about adding more responsibility to teachers. It's about making a clear structural decision. Social media should not be accessible on school-issued devices. Not limited, not discouraged, simply unavailable. So I've developed a draft school-issued device social media access policy for you all. I only made 6 copies. So I'll go ahead and pass it out. Okay, so here, I'll just hand it to you now. Pass one down. Sorry, I didn't get enough. Okay. So this policy, as it comes around, we know that devices are issued for educational purposes. I definitely had to sign that when I was registering students, the waivers. And social media platforms being fully blocked, and the rule applies on and off campus. This brings our device use in line with our phone policy and creates a consistent environment where focus is actually possible. And I'm asking the committee to take this up at a future agenda. And right now we're asking students to manage a level of distraction that most adults struggle with. And let's work together to sign it better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So just to clarify,
Yeah.
I know we have policies in place for devices that are school issued devices on websites that can access in school, which especially at the high school and sometimes at the lower grades creates a issue with, like, if they're doing research on something, if it's too inclusive, it blocks certain websites and they can't get access to things they need to get access to. But, like, you know, I'm 51 years old, so I'll say Facebook, but all the other things that are on there, like Instagram and whatever else there is, are they able to access those on their, like, do we have anything to, like, that would stop Instagram from coming up on our school devices, or?
And we have the ability to block anything we want to block, and some social media is blocked. Not all, but there are some that have been blocked from access through the Chromebooks.
How come they're all not blocked?
Well, this is not, I can't engage in a debate, I'm not prepared.
I was just-
Right, so, like,
Yeah.
public comment is just for public
Yeah.
comment, it's not really designed to have a debate about, but I think that we can definitely take this under advisement. Brian can take a look at this and bring it to our policy set if we feel we're lacking any capacity, on policy that affects social media, and so, like, I appreciate you bringing this to our attention.
Yeah, I do, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, my kids are able to get on any social media from their Chromebooks, so that's.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Next, we have reports and presentation. The students have senior night tonight, so they're not here. So next we will go to the report of the superintendent.
My report will actually be very brief tonight. Just a couple of items I wanted to highlight. I don't know if you're like me, but I was unaware that there was such a thing as the National Baseball Poetry Contest, but this does exist, and it actually originates in Worcester. And now it's connected with the Woot Sox. So what's really cool about this is a poetry festival that focuses solely around poetry written about baseball, America's favorite pastime, as they say. And as I noted in my report, there were 7 Hudson High School students that received recognition in this year's National Baseball Poetry Festival. So Sophie Lee, Patrick McIntyre, Katie Newton-Clark, Marissa Eduarda do Nascimento, Quinn Weithman, Bryn Concanon, and Barbara Fernandez will all be recognized by being invited to Bullock Park on Saturday the 9th. So I just, I bring this up because it's neat, it's interesting, and it's great to see when there are contests out there that are trying to grab kids' interest in writing by focusing on one particular topic that they might be passionate about. So this is just one of those examples. And I also, as I noted in my report, this is a credit to our whole writing department, our ELA department within our secondary level here in the district. But I do want to call out Carol Hobbs, who's a longtime English teacher here, who, if you've ever seen The Scribbler, I actually have a hard copy. I only have one, though. I can bring it to the next meeting and folks can take a look at it. But that's our literary magazine that's at the high school. That's been in place for many years. It's all something that Carol has done. Carol's actually a poet herself, and she encourages kids all the time to enter various contests. And a lot of the things that I share with you over the years are because Carol encourages kids to share their writing and really elevates their confidence around that. So I just wanted to make note of that. I just think it's really neat. Carol told me about it back in January, February, and I said, seriously, there's a National Baseball Poetry Festival. And she said, yeah, right here in Worcester. So really, really exciting stuff. So somewhat related to that, I want to just highlight that last Thursday we had Arts Night here at the high school. I was able to walk around and be present for the event. Really a cool event. Back when I was principal, this was just the visual art show, and then over the years they've expanded it to include music, drama, and writing. So if you were here for the event from, I think it was 5:30 to 8-ish or so that it ran, you could go down a couple to 3 hallways where it looked like an art gallery with hundreds of student pieces of student artwork. I have the task of picking 2 every year that will get a superintendent's award. It's a near impossible task to pick 2 pieces of artwork off the wall to highlight, but it's an honor of mine to do. to do that. And now, like they had what Mr. Karen does with the band, is he does what he calls an open rehearsal. So like the kids for like 30 minutes, he rehearses a song and plays through a couple of numbers, and people can sit and watch and listen to the process happen. So we did that with the jazz band and the concert band. They did a little snippet from the musical that's coming up in June out in the cafeteria at one point, and then Carol Hobbs ran a poetry reading session in the theater. So like a whole bunch of just showcases around the arts and writing. A really cool event, and the teachers that volunteer for that spend hours prepping, particularly the art teachers who are spending a long time getting those pieces of art ready to go up on the walls. And there are arts nights similar in all of our schools. I can get you the dates, I just don't have all of them in front of me. But all 3 elementary schools run an arts night, which also includes music and the visual arts. In the middle school, I believe, does something similar, but I can get those dates to you. So a nice night to highlight. There were, right before that started, we inducted 17 students into the National Arts Honor Society. This is the first time we've inducted students since, I believe, COVID. This was a long-standing club for years. It went away around the pandemic, and it's now been reactivated here at Hudson High. So there were 17 students that were inducted. I think that was at like 5:30 before the whole event started, so I was able to go to that as well and see the kids recognized for their artwork and their service. And they had a Hudson High graduate who I think just graduated from college, and her degree is sort of visual art adjacent. It's around sort of marketing and the visual aspect of that. She came back and talked about how she carried what she learned and developed as an artist at Hudson High into a career. So that's kind of neat for kids to see too, something that was just here a few years ago, using art in their everyday lives. So, and then lastly, I just wanted to talk about Student Government Day and the Board of Education, both involving Hudson High senior Izzy Chamberlain. So I think you know that Izzy is the president of the State Student Advisory Council. She was also elected to be the student representative across, only student representative, there's only one in the Commonwealth for the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education, the BESE. So in the packet, I provided you with an image of Izzy in front of the State House. She was there for Student Government Day last month with over 300 students from across the Commonwealth. But more importantly, or maybe interestingly, as the student member of the BESE, the board actually will hold its meeting in May here. This has been a tradition. So the date of that meeting is May 19th. It is, I don't know the exact room. I think they were planning on this room or the mini theater. It's at 9 a.m. It is a public meeting. Notified you. I've also notified Tom Gregory because there were some members of the board, of the select board, that were interested. So he was going to share that with them. I know it's a tough time because people have jobs and they're working. 9 a.m. on a day in May is not exactly the easiest. It's a Tuesday, I believe. So, but if you're interested, I will make sure once we know the location that you can know that. It may be interesting to see how our State Board of Education operates and what their meetings look like. On the board is the Commissioner of Education, Pedro Martinez, not the picture, and the Secretary of Education, who was newly appointed by Governor Stephen Shrike, who was just most recently superintendent up in Salem. So, and then there are appointed officials by the governor that are on the board, and Izzy Chamberlain from Hudson High. So that'll be May 19th at 9 a.m.
I'll definitely be at that.
Yeah, it's great. I'm going to put a message out to Kate Hogan's office and Jamie Eldridge's office too, just in case they're interested and they're in the area and they want to come by, be here for that event. And I've also already notified that they're interested in taking a couple photos and just.
Izzy Chamberlain was also our guest speaker at Rotary Club last month.
She's a pretty impressive young woman for sure. We'll be watching her in the years ahead. I included enrollment information in your packet. I'm not going to go over it in depth. I guess we'll just say if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them. Not a lot of changes that you're seeing from month to month, but it's interesting that our April 30th number was the exact number that we had projected. So we projected 2,258 students, and that was our exact enrollment. Just by luck, that was when that number hit. So. And I will mention, just people are watching this at home, we received a positive vote for the roof projects last night at town meeting. I couldn't see behind me, but my understanding there were very few panels going up for the no's. 4, all right, that's a good number. Now the trick is getting folks to the polls on Monday. So we'll spread the word. I did have several people come up at the end and say, congratulations, you got your roofs. I'm like, not yet. So
I understand.
I'm surprised. That's a little bit. So
I think Brian did an excellent job. I think we were all there. Brian did an excellent job presenting. There was really nothing really to say after Brian's presentation. And I think what people need to realize is, and you made an excellent point, it's that we spent, you said 43 million, I think it was 41 or 43 million dollars on this building. So we have roofs that need repair and partial replacement at the high school. In order to protect the value of the $41 million investment that we made, we need to spend $6 million, which comes up to be $97 a year in tax bills for the average. And if we don't address, like the roof, one of the most important things on any structure, if it starts to seep in and starts to destroy the building, then the cost to replace this school would cost somewhere between $200 and $250 million. So with the old Hudson High School being torn down after 30 years, we're already 23 years into this building. The building's in excellent shape. It makes no sense to not repair the roofs because the roofs will have, and Brian pointed this out, all this information I'm getting from Brian, 15% a year will be added onto the cost as just an inflation calculator. But as soon as these repair parts of these projects turn into replacement, the cost is going to double. So we're going to be paying double plus 15% on anything we don't do now. So it makes sense to protect this investment. And something that I'll warn you about is the controversial DPW building that got built. It passed town meeting 80 or 90%, and the ballot box was, I think, won by 50 votes, 5-0. So it was that convincing a town meeting, and they only won by 50 votes. So if you have multiple people in your house that vote, this is a good year to make sure that everybody votes.
Well, that's the same thing that happened with the override. It passed overwhelmingly at town meeting and very close to the ballot. You did do an absolutely excellent job. I feel like the question that we are getting asked the most, which you answered, is why wasn't this included in the override last year? So your description around this being kind of like short-term versus in capital projects like this are never included in something like that. And so there is a lot of misinformation out there. I'm confident that everybody in the room with you last night has the information that they need to make the decision that's best for them, but that's not true in the larger community. Are we able to share your slides on the Hudson pages across town?
yes, I gave last night's slides to Leah Owen just about 4 o'clock today. She was going to take those and kind of chunk them out into digestible pieces and use Facebook and Instagram to push some of that out. Anybody can put it on any other site as well. It's also on our website.
Okay, because I think it's important for anybody watching or any of us to like share that information with all of the misinformation that's being posted again, so that people can make the decision that's best for them.
Yeah, and I can send the committee anything about what you just said. I can send you guys the slides from last night too, just in case somebody's asking you, and you can push it out
Yes.
to folks. I thought about, but I don't know, I mean, you can give advice on this. I don't know if Together for Hudson is a group that's interested in being behind something like this or
They
not,
are.
or,
They
okay,
are.
so that information.
They've had their hands full, but now
Yeah,
they're
I know
ready.
they've been a lot. So,
And they have been, I mean, they're sharing it, but that would be helpful. Anything that we can share with them, I'm sure they're.
yeah, we're unable to have the 2-pagers at the polling stations.
Right, I thought-
I'd love to have once you sign in, you can take one of these, but
I
that's
thought
It was great, but what you said was better than the
yeah.
one pager. You know, you
Right,
just,
yeah,
you
me too.
answered the concerns directly.
Nobody even had any
No,
questions
we
after
didn't.
you talked.
Right, okay, more them to
No.
No,
sign.
it was
for us.
perfect.
The one thing I didn't mention last night that Dan Gale was kind of whispering in my ear that I just want to get out there again, because we talked about water infiltration at the high school already. I've said it in this meeting, but I should say it again. We did do an air quality test in the whole area where we've had some water come in the building, and there's no mold in the building right now. So I want to say that again, so people, like, I don't want something to start out there that, oh, there's water in that building, there must be mold. We made sure based on some feedback from the committee that we did that check. I think it was back in February that they did the upload check, so. Yeah, so something I learned about our Facebook is for a nominal amount of money, and I think this was like a $50, we authorized $50. Leah can do what's called a boost. So this is what I don't know about social media, but like, and actually Facebook then pushes this to people's pages that have a certain demographic. So she was specific about people in Hudson from like ages 18 to 65 or something. So people that wouldn't normally, because they're not following Hudson Public Schools, may find this coming up on their feed if they use it. And she was able to tell me this cool thing about using her, and she can give us sort of metrics around how many people viewed this. So she said it looked like it was gaining a lot of traction, so she's going to leave it out there through this week, along with the new stuff that I sent her today.
Is she planning potentially to do a reminder either very late in the week or first thing on Monday about getting out to vote?
Yes, so I'm going to do another in my end of the week message, and then I'll send that to her to push that out.
There's only one contested race on the ballot, and the ballot question, one contested race, so I don't know what the turnout's gonna be, so like these votes matter.
One more question. Is she able to put it in multiple languages, the posts? Or at least provide the materials in multiple languages?
I can definitely have those translated, but I'll ask her how that works for her, and maybe if I give her the docs, then she can put it there. So I know like my messages that will go out, the one on last Friday, this Friday would be translated, but I can have the slides translated by the Welcome Center. Yeah.
And we can all post it if we want on our own private pages. I would just warn you to be careful of pushing stuff up on school committee email. If we get these slides from Ryan, you might want to be pushing them out to people on your own private email, not your school committee. Unless somebody asks you a specific question and you respond, then you're doing your duty as a school committee person. Is that it?
Oh, that is it.
So can I go back to enrollment for 1 second? This is just a question that I need to know for yearbook purposes. The +1 at Forest, that's a 4th grader, isn't it? Do you have the details there?
Should. Oh, you know what? I don't. I can get that. I just don't have it in front
I
of me.
think it is, because I have 54 yearbooks coming and it says 55.
Oh, okay, close. Oh, short one then.
And I don't want to miss somebody in the yearbook. We're doing a yearbook in Forest for the first time this year, but we used to it Friday and then we ended meeting, so.
I can double check at the end of the meeting. I just don't have lab. I have it on my computer.
Okay, thank you.
Is that it? All right, so next we have subcommittee reports. I don't think anybody has met except student advisory subcommittee met, and we met last Thursday. We were all there. We had a great conversation on many different topics. It was very productive. And, talked about all sorts of different things. We talked about the lockdown. We talked about sports. We talked about, what else did we talk about?
Bathrooms.
Yeah, the bathrooms, the schedule.
Oh, yeah, the schedule.
Yeah.
Schedule staying in place as it is for 1 more year, and then there'll be changes made to it.
Yeah, it was hard to keep kids in art for 1 hour, keep them engaged.
And what the day of art was. It was a very productive meeting, I
It
thought.
was actually, yeah. It was a great work study program.
And then the only other thing I'll say on subcommittee reports is we need to get moving on the superintendent's evaluation, and we're doing it a little bit later this year because we're not gonna have a change in membership of the committee, so we can push it out a little bit. It's always better to have the superintendent's review as close to the end of the year as we can, and we have that opportunity to push it out a little bit this year without having any change in membership on the committee, so we took advantage of that.
I'm scheduled to get my initial reflection documents to the subcommittee on Monday of next week, which is that's the whole time I shifted it by about 2 weeks. So.
Great. Anything else on subcommittee reports?
Can I just make one comment that I was reminded from our student advisory subcommittee?
Sure.
I wanted to mention tonight. We talked about when we talked about the lockdown. I made mention in that subcommittee meeting, Erica, you were looking for a copy of it, so I'll get it for the whole committee. I've only been able to successfully get one one quote on the security assessment that we talked about doing with the buildings. So I'm happy to share that copy offline with the committee so you can see what was submitted. I say this because I need to get at least one more so I can see what we're in the ballpark, because it came in with the 5 schools and the central office building at $90,000 for an assessment. To some people that doesn't, I think you had a reaction, that doesn't sound too crazy. I saw the number, I'm like, So anything at that cost also raises other issues, because now we've got to go out to bid and all of that. So I'm hoping we can we've got a couple of other leads we're trying to track down. If anybody has ideas, I'm happy to pursue them. But this is a very comprehensive quote that they gave us that shows, what I like about it. I mean, they're expensive, you get what you pay for. At the end of the day, you get a document that will show in detail, like sort of the things you can do right now for free or low cost, sort of things that they suggest to be long range that you might need capital money for. So it kind of lays it out that way by building, with each building having the same list of categories that they assess. This particular company has former school people, but more importantly, former law enforcement, like retired law enforcement and security personnel that would come to the district and do the physical evaluation of the building. So we're making some progress on that. I just wish that I had like 2 or 3 total. I haven't done this yet, but I'm going to reach out to the architects that are doing the space needs study to see if they might have, maybe they've got a subset of people that do this kind of work there, or they have a contractor in mind. But I meant to mention that, and I'll share that draft with folks.
Have we looked at grants for this type of work that covers either threat assessments, violence prevention training, anything like that?
I'd be honest, I have not looked too deeply into that, but we certainly should, now that we know it's possible. I've seen grants out there for like certain parts of the project, like a grant to replace a camera system or a grant to like for that. But there may be ones out there as well.
There might not be grants, I mean, I could be wrong, but there might not be grants for the study. But once we know what the study says, there might be grants for the actual physical things we need.
Yeah, and this one company that did respond feels that they could get something like this done in the summertime. So
probably would be prudent to try and get one more quote. Just to make sure we're not that far off, but I think when we're talking about the topic, it seems unreasonable to me.
It looks like there are 4 grants that we should possibly explore.
I see 5. I just did a Google search.
Yeah, grants.com.
These are federal grants, no. No, I just asked grants for school districts.
Yeah.
All right. So next we have matters for discussion, old business and new business, which we have none. So we're going to matters for action, old business, school committee policy manual updates, second reading. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I believe the only one that we had major discussion on last time, and you have responded to us on it, is the bullying prevention policy.
Yeah, so what you have in your packet is the document that you saw last time that shows the old and the new in 2 columns. And then at the end of that document, it's easy to put the new in the format that it would be on the website, just so you can see if approved. That's right here, what that old policy would look like if somebody pulled it up online. So what you see in this format is what's on this side of the 2-column document. And so tonight is technically the second reading, so this would be where the committee would take action on each of these.
I believe we can vote them as a block.
Sure, yeah, all of the committee would proceed. And I will mention, if we're going to look at them all, consider them all together. The other document, again, it's repeated from last time, but where there were, like, so the first one was CHA and CHC, and the recommendation is to combine them into just one policy, CHA. So you'll see if you get to like the 4th page into that packet, you see the new version CHA in the format. You can see it online. So we just wove it into the document. In the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in that document, IE, IHAI, IHB, HE-E, IL, and IMA are all recommended for removal from the policy book. based on NASC recommendation. I don't know how the committee wants to proceed or vote together.
Is there a motion to approve them as a block? So we're update, consolidation, new, and then back removals.
Make a motion to vote on this as an entire set of changes in one block vote.
So I don't think we need a motion to vote on them as one block. Do you want to make a motion to approve?
Motion to approve, sorry. One whole set. I'll second it.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
I just wanted to clarify where we left off at the last meeting, just around the language around using obligated, students are obligated to report.
Yep.
I happened to run into somebody from DESI through my work, and my understanding is we don't need to use that word. We do need to say that students they shall report, they're expected to report, they're strongly encouraged to report, is my understanding from this conversation. Some school districts do say obligated, and then they add on in quotes, and the district will ensure safe and supportive reporting options, which sometimes just feels a little bit more comfortable for people. I'm only harping on this because I don't like when there's something in policy that's not enforced. And the law clearly says there can be no disciplinary action for not reporting. We're all in agreement with that. But I wasn't sure if there was any further conversation on your end with anybody about that around the word obligated.
Yeah, I mean, after our last meeting, I did, after how we left the discussion, I didn't follow up because I think we had talked about the fact that it does say they're not subject to discipline. As I said last time, I'm okay, I'm not opposed to the committee recommending something other than that word. Because the reality is, you say you're obligated, but then we say, but if you don't do it, nothing happens.
What did you say in parentheses?
Yeah.
So my favorite one is if we don't use obligated, are strongly encouraged to report. Or if we kept the word obligated, they are obligated and the district will ensure safe and supportive reporting options, which is why we have anonymous reporting. We're already doing that. But I like are strongly encouraged to report.
I'm fine with either. What's your preference?
No, that's fine, yeah, if we want, I'm happy to, I think you just have an amendment, do it, but vote them with that amendment, and then we'll just make the change for you.
You're making a friendly amendment. Then all we need to do is approve the language for the friendly amendment. We'll say under your motion.
Yeah.
We can move forward. So do you want to say obligated with the language that you said, or do you want the word obligated out?
I personally want obligated out, but I don't know how others feel about it.
So,
I agree.
yeah. So just say the exact word you want replaced with obligated.
Are strongly encouraged to.
So we're taking out obligated and we're putting are strongly encouraged to. Perfect. So that's part of that's the friendly amendment. We have the motion, we have the second. Is there any further discussion on it? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? 7-0.
So I'll make that change, and then we'll put a date on it, and we'll get them up there, hopefully by the end of the week, the policy book will be updated. Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you, John.
Great. Next, we have vote to approve a collective bargaining agreement between the Hudson School Committee and the AFSCME Custodians Local Bargaining Unit effective July 1st, 2026 to June 30th, 2029. Is there a motion to approve? Motion to approve.
Second.
I can say that. I leave it, I'm fine. I just,
I'm fine
no
with it
questions.
if you want, but we've had a motion in a second, so now we can have discussion.
Okay. And I'd just say Jen's on the call too, if folks want.
Who was the second?
Me.
I will just say that just so it goes into the minutes, that this is a 3-year agreement. Zach, Chris, and Tara were the subcommittee that negotiated with the custodial union. I think it was a very positive, amicable.
2 meetings, very friendly.
Yeah, so it went really well. So this begins July 1, 2026 and concludes June 30th, 2029. And just the other piece that might be good for the record is that the cost of living adjustment is 2% year 1, 2% year 2, and 2% in year 3. In year 1, we agreed, in addition to 2%, to create a new step 9. In year 2, we agreed to create a new step 10. And no new steps in year 3, just a 2% COLA. We aligned their longevity payments with other unions, which was only felt only fair to us that they had the same longevity payments. And, everything else was fairly, they had a very reasonable request for the clothing allowance to go from $550 to $600, which we agreed seems more than reasonable. And some changes to sick leave buyback, but again, nominal, kind of bring them up to where other unions were. So, all in all, I think a good negotiation and a positive experience. But if there are questions, we'd be happy to answer. And they have signed, I have 2 copies here that the subcommittee members can sign at the end of the meeting, and then we'll have 2 originals. So.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? 7-0. Next, we have the vote to approve the collective bargaining agreement between the Hudson School Committee and the Hudson School Administrative Assistant Association, HSAAA, effective July 1st, 2026 to June 30th, 2029. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
And you want to just give us a quick synopsis and if there are any questions?
Yep, absolutely. So like the custodial contract, this is a 3-year duration, July 1, 26 through June 30th, 29. Some of the highlights to point out. Let me see what things that are sort of important here that are more than just sort of housekeeping. One of the big pieces here, we had some language in there about compensatory time. For folks that were working over their allotted hours in a week, we eliminated the idea of compensatory time and just shifted to an overtime approach, which just feels more appropriate. We've also agreed to go with a paid lunch, 30-minute lunch. That will kick in year 2 of the contract. All of our other units have that, essentially that provision in their contract. This was the only unit that didn't. Their longevity was adjusted, same as custodians. So now the common longevity for some of our unions is 10 years, but less than 15, they get $600, 15, but less than 20, they get $900. After 20 years, $1,200, and after 25 years, $1,500 longevity. We amended the work year from 224 days to 219 days, and that did adjust pay accordingly. So it wasn't, we ended up with less pay for those 6 days, 5 days rather, that were shortened. And then in terms of the compensation, we worked together to be really creative around this. And again, this was a very positive session, a set of sessions as well. It's a great union to work with. So in year 1, it's a 1.5% cost of living adjustment. And then in addition to that, any employee hired after July 1, 2023 will move 1 step effective July 1, 2026. And any employee hired before June 30th, 2023 will move 3 steps. So what was identified in the negotiation is that we did a step change a few years ago in the last contract. And then we ended up having folks getting hired into the district based on their years of experience at a higher step than people that had been here for a number of years. So these step adjustments, the COLA seems really low, but what they were bargaining for here, and it made a lot of sense, was just to make a correction to those step adjustments so that folks that we've had here a long time move some steps, and then therefore that's a salary increase. That's why the 1.5 was acceptable to them. And I will say that this is something they brought up in one of the sessions that was kind of felt demoralizing to them as members that have been here a long time. And it struck me in that meeting that something we really hadn't considered. And we were very appreciative that we went back and worked out a proposal that addressed that. And I think that built a lot of goodwill with the unit there and helped us get to a contract very quickly. In year 2, the unit has agreed to a 0% COLA, but there'll be additional 30-minute paid lunch. So there's an adjustment there, right? So their hours that they work a week will be increased. So therefore, that is sort of the increase in salary. So that amends their work days from 7.5 to 8 hours of paid time. And because part-time employees don't receive a lunch, so that they don't receive a 0% COLA, we made a special provision, and I think there's only 2 part-time positions, so that they would receive a 2% lump sum payment. So they're not getting a 2% of their hourly, like a COLA, a cost of living adjustment. But the equivalent of that for the year would be given to them in a lump sum payment at the beginning of the year. I can't remember what we decided. So that's just to recognize those 2 employees that would not have benefited from that extra time for the lunch. And then year 3, also a 0% COLA, but the part-time employees receiving the 2% lump sum again. So the 2 zeros are really in response to the bonuses that they got through the step increases and the paid lunch. They recognize that that's sort of equivalent to a healthy cost of living adjustment, and help us get there. We noticed after the school committee voted the calendar to be open on Good Friday that we have collective bargaining units that actually have Good Friday as a day off in there. So that was something, and all individual contract administrators have that as well. So to be creative, we've got some language in this particular contract that talks about if that happens, then the superintendent can establish basically a floating holiday that they can use at a different day. Because we can't have all our secretaries out on Good Friday when the buildings are open with students and teachers. They were amenable to that. So, and that gives us the flexibility. If the next calendar you vote has Good Friday closed again, then fine, they have that day off. But if we happen to be open on a day that's a contract identified holiday, then we have that. Some changes to vacation and personal leave to sort of make them more common with units around the state. We were able to do some comparisons, nothing major, but it felt good. Appendix A might look odd to you if you're looking at page 9. There's a table that has a column that says name. When we do step changes like we did that can be complex, usually as an appendix, we'll actually put every unit member's name in a table so that they can see to make sure that what we're agreeing to matches their understanding by person. In the public document that I shared tonight, we took the names out. I do have that document that will be internal if anybody wants to see that, but we didn't think it would be appropriate. The union was in agreement with that we share everybody's individual salary. All our salaries are public anyway, so everybody can ask that question, but putting it out this way just didn't feel right to us, so they weren't agreeing with that. And the copy that's in your packet is actually already signed. We use DocuSign, so it was signed by Bree Neely, who's the president, and Joan and Chris Lencini on behalf of the school committee.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor? 7-0.
I just want to thank Jen, who's on tonight, and Dan. Jen, sorry that I did all the talking here, but I want to thank her for her help with negotiations. She really does a great job at in between meetings, getting us prepared, as does Dan, crunching numbers. So without them on the team, this would certainly have been a much more arduous process. So just wanted to mention that tonight.
Thank you. Next, we have the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Or does anybody need anything pulled out?
Are we talking about the special education, as part of the special education study? Is that part of the consent agenda?
Yes.
I would like to talk about that for this moment.
Okay. So we will need a motion. Do you want to pull that out? So we'll do a motion to approve the minutes from the regular school committee meeting on April 7, 2026. Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? 7-0. And then item B.
So, I just think whenever we're going to use money from the budget, we have a responsibility to the public to tell them why we're doing it. And to me, this seems like a really good use of funds because one, it analyzes our staffing structure, and these are the positions that we needed to add in this budget in order to meet the needs of our students. So I think that's definitely a reason why I'm in support of this. And I also think that if there are things that we could be doing differently to improve these services, we're going to be more likely to keep kids in district. So just wanted to explain the rationale around that. And I'm wondering if there is any way to add, as part of the scope of this review process, looking at whether or not trauma-informed approaches are currently being utilized as part of behavioral supports, including ABA, if that's an area of growth for us, There's increases in dual diagnoses with kiddos who have developmental differences and trauma. And so there's a whole new school of thought out there on trauma-informed ABA that is getting a lot of attention, for better or for worse. And if it fits within the scope of this review process and it doesn't change the funding, I think that would be a really important thing for us to add.
Sure. And I ask you, would you mind putting how you frame, what you framed that in an email to me,
Sure.
just so I can check in with Elise and make sure that we can see what we can do with that.
Is there a motion to approve item B?
Motion to approve item B.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor? 7-0. Are there any items of interest to the school committee?
I apologize that I have a million, but you want to go first? I saw you reaching for that.
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge, Zary did, and who spoke in the beginning. I think, she brings up a really great point with kids having access on their Chromebooks. And I think it's definitely worthwhile for us to continue the conversation to see how we can limit it, or at least, weird approach younger kids and less access, because Chris brought up a great point. It is important for the older kids doing research to have, more access. So, but I think it's definitely something that is absolutely worthwhile to discuss and try to come up with something. So, I agree. Cool.
Okay, so Erica and I had candidates night. Was it this week?
Last Thursday.
I don't know when it was, but we have a lot of questions that we want to ask on behalf of the voters. So do you have an update on the space needs study for us? I
We
thought
will
we
shortly. So we've been meeting, we were in an hour-and-a-half long meeting last week.
That's what-
And we'll be bringing, we're meeting tomorrow. No, Thursday.
There's no more.
Again. And then we'll be bringing it to the school committee in probably June.
June, okay. And for clarification purposes, because this was not our recollection, Brian, do you ever remember at a town meeting saying that the reason that for the space needs study was to make the decision to close one of our schools?
No.
I don't think I said that was the specific reason. I may have, I don't recall exactly what is, my words, but I may have said that based on enrollment trends, so we need to make a decision whether or not we're right sized, right? So I know there's been some words out there about like us demolishing a building too, which is certainly not, you could, confirm, none of the plans we're looking at right now, actually none of them really have us closing any schools
Well,
right now. fully.
One thing that is somewhat clear is that we're going to be moving out of the administration.
Right.
Mhm.
So we need to move our administration into one of the schools. We cannot sustain. So moving out of the administration building allows the town to sell the building, make money on selling the building, and then we don't have, the town not still have the cost to maintain and improve that building. There was a study done to do a new administration building, which was in the millions, and we decided not to go that route. So we're kind of committed to figure out how to get our administration into one or more of our schools, maintain the schools that we have. I think any confusion that might be out there is perhaps changing the grade configuration of the schools.
This was just, this is helpful clarification of.
Yeah, we could not close one of our elementary schools without doing a major add-on to another school.
And very specifically, we would not be closing our high school or Farley when we're asking for roofs for them. Yes, okay, perfect, wonderful, okay.
Those are the high school and Farley are the newest built or renovated buildings.
Yes,
Well, I guess.
great, thank you for clarifying. With the decision that just came over the past week or so regarding BP and the dump expansion, how does this impact bus parking for us?
Yeah, I'll give you a basic update now. I was hoping to more information for you in 2 weeks, but the same day that I heard that the BP decision was made, we received a phone call from National Development that we need to move the buses. And so they've been very good. We've been there a long time at no charge. From what I gathered from the woman on the phone, who's excellent to work with, that they're at the point where for them, is going to become a liability insurance issue. So they must be bringing in some heavy equipment, and they're just afraid if things get damaged, then they're going to be liable for the stuff on their property. So the plan originally was that we would have them relocated by the end of July, which was great because we have them through the end of the year. They reached out a couple days later saying, I think that they get an even better insurance deal if we can get them out by June 30th. It's okay with us, because I mean, the point for me was if I could just keep them there until school's closed, which we can. So buses going to First Students lot, which is likely where they'll be stored for the summer over in Marlboro, will happen as of June 30th. And then they have a trailer there where they operate out of, and that's on First Student. They've got so Dan's been communicating with them about getting that piece of equipment or that building off of their property. So by June 30th, we will be out of Reed Road. Subsequent to that, as you know, with First Student, we had a 3-year contract with a 2-year option to extend. The 3rd year of that contract is next year. We have notified them that our intention is to actually go to bid early. That got First Student wondering what's going on. So they've asked us questions, is there something we could consider? So I don't want to go into details, but we're trying to use this as a conversation piece that might make an extension or using the option years 4 and 5 more attractive to us and prevent us from having to look. So during the last contract, you may recall the number we used was $200,000. That's the cost that they were quoting us to store buses outside of Hudson. So it's a concern, obviously. I mean, this would be a major hit to say a school choice lines, particularly for fiscal year 27, because we've not budgeted for that. So it would significantly diminish school choice funds that we typically like to keep for emergencies, right? So we'll have hopefully more for you at the next meeting, but we're waiting to hear back from First Student for their initial reactions. They're a large corporation, they're nationwide, so they can't make some of these decisions. They can't make locally, the people that we work with. So they were going to run it up to corporate and see what they can do to us. So if that isn't a possibility, then we really need to get creative. We have a new DPW director that's coming on at the end of May. I'd like to pursue a conversation with Tom and that person again, now that the dust is settled, the building is built. Mm-hmm. Even if it means, if there's land over there that isn't developed, right, that's trees that we can, I hate to look at. But if there's something we can do to create a gravel lot anywhere on that property. And I'm also not sure, you probably know better than me, Tara, that the expansion was turned down, but does that mean the move won't happen at all? Is that our understanding? But we're not sure.
I'm not sure.
That's yet to be determined, because there's all sorts of different scenarios where possibly a new building could be built further back at the same 350 level or lower.
Yeah, so there's a lot up in the air right now, but for the immediate, you need to know that the gravy train has ended for buses at Reed Road, but it's been close to 2 years of it. I was listening there.
Has it been that long? Wow.
Yeah, close to it. I can't remember exactly. I believe the move was around the summertime, so I believe like the summer might be 2 years.
Wow.
So, and we're very grateful for that, for being flexible. So.
Okay, so we'll talk more in 2 weeks.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
I'll Dan and I should have enough.
You said $1 million. We have.
I know I have many more. Speaking of buses, will the bus pilot continue next year? And if so, when will registration begin for families so that they can start to plan ahead for the fall?
I was going to make a recommendation to the committee at either the second May or the first June meeting that you do continue it. I'm assuming the committee would support it. We did last time. I've had a couple parents ask me, and I've told them that I feel pretty confident that we can say that yes. So I don't think there's a necessary vote that's needed because it's not a policy piece. So we will proceed with the understanding that it will continue. And now that we know that, I'll have to talk with Dan and the crew to see what the best time is to do it. It may be that it's a rolling thing that happens over the summer months too, because we're going to have families that are that's our largest registration period of time, and that's when we're building bus routes. So it's likely that this is going to be like a window, right? If we kick it off, say, I'm just making this up off of my head here, but we say June 1st, and it's going to be through sort of the first day of school, right, kind of thing, so that we can,
As long as it,
middle of August, rather, when the bus routes are.
as long as it continues as a pilot program, we don't need to vote on that, but we would only vote on it if we changed our policy. I believe.
So that's a good point. So I can check in with council to see how they want us to proceed on that, because you're right, I wouldn't want it to be a pilot forever.
It
So
could certainly be a
whether you
pilot.
want to do it one more year as a pilot, we
It
could do
certainly
that.
be one more year.
Okay.
Well, especially if we start registration early in the summer before people have made alternative plans, I think we'll have a
We
more
can see
accurate
what they
idea of how many people want to take advantage of it.
Yeah, so then that's a good idea. Plan for be a pilot the second year. Now that we have the forms all ready to go, it should be quicker for us to get it up. So,
And just a reminder, we want to schedule parent-teacher conferences now that the school calendar has been approved, because people are already starting to look ahead at dates for that. That's not me, but I
I have a meeting with principals a week from Thursday, and we've already, it's on our agenda. They know that they have to come to that meeting prepared to give us dates so we can get those published.
Perfect. And this did not come up in our candidates night, but I did have some questions from the elementary schools around clarifying our query procedure. It sounds like there is some discrepancy amongst the elementary schools, that some of them say that if you are on site at all during the school day, even if you're volunteering in a classroom with other teachers or at a fun day, for example, you need a query. And some are saying that unless you are in kind of like a field trip environment where you could be one-to-one or small group with a student without staff, that's the only reason why you need a query. It's my understanding that you should be queried whenever you're on school grounds around students, but that's not happening consistently at the school. So do you know off the top of your head, or can we clarify that?
Let me get clarification
Okay.
and make sure. It sounds like there may be some inconsistencies there, so I can bring something back to you on the
Okay.
19th, right? That's our next meeting.
Yeah.
And then last, this actually goes along nicely with kind of the proposal from public participation, but I think that it sparked with the conversations around the bullying prevention policy, but there's a lot happening with just internet safety, cybersecurity, things like that. And so wondering if we could ever explore, when we're planning for next school year, to have a group come in and do some sort of assembly with our students, especially middle and high school level, around internet safety, things like that. You might know, but child advocacy centers offer those trainings free for school districts, for either staff or students. The presentations are wonderful. We have one of those programs. Middlesex CAC is our catchment area, and they're always coming up to schools. They can either do it with staff or with students, but if there's the ability to do something with students, I'd say probably preferably at the middle school, but definitely middle and high school. If we have the flexibility in the schedule, it may be worth exploring.
Sure.
Kids don't know how to navigate these things.
What was the name of the group you mentioned?
Child advocacy centers are just kind of a national group that they also provide free training on like mandated reporting, recognizing signs of abuse. They're a great resource, but they have one on cyber education and sexting is in the title, but it's relevant. And I'm happy to connect if you want this.
Okay.
Did I miss anything, Erica? Who was it? Was that?
None of those came up at night.
You didn't get
Okay, so next we do have a need for what I hope to be short executive session. I'm gonna make a motion to go into executive session and not return to open meeting pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A for the following purpose. Purpose 2, to discuss strategy, conduct contract negotiations with non-union personnel, being the Director of Finance and Operations, as an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the public body, and the chair so declares.
Second.
Please vote to.
So Marcia's the second?
Yeah.
And we need a roll call vote. Beginning with Tara, let's work our way back.
Yes.
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 Yes, yes.
Yes, and I'll note that we are going into executive session at 8 o'clock, not to return to public session.